To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
So my dear children, in the earlier chapters, we discussed several things regarding the biodiversity lesson part, right? We discussed all the theoretical parts related to the biodiversity. Now it's time to discuss questions related to the biodiversity lesson. So as usual, you are given with the first main type of question. Now here you need to select the correct statement about the biodiversity. So you have to select the most accurate answer in these MCQ type questions. So select the correct statement about the biodiversity. Biodiversity is the diversity of all living beings in the environment. Biodiversity is the diversity of plants, animals, and the microorganisms in the environment. Biodiversity is the diversity of plants, animals, microorganisms in the environment and their genetic materials. Biodiversity is the combination of plants, animals, microorganisms, their genetic materials, and the ecosystems. So my dear children, which one is the most accurate answer? When we are discussing about biodiversity, I think you could remember we discussed about the ecosystems as well. Ecosystem diversity, species diversity, genetic diversity, all the things can be considered as the biodiversity. So combination of all of these things is the biodiversity. So biodiversity is the combination of plants, animals, microorganisms, and their genetic materials, and as well as ecosystems. This is what do you mean by the biodiversity. Next one. Which out of the following is not a threat for biodiversity? Not a threat for biodiversity. Environmental pollution, increase in human population, spread of invasive species, study of biodiversity. Not a threat. Spread of invasive species, yes. Environmental pollution, of course, yes. Increasing human population, that is also a threat. However, my dear children, study of biodiversity, that is not a threat. Next one. Select the correct statement regarding biodiversity. The correct one. High biodiversity will increase the well-being and the stability of an ecosystem. Correct. If a certain ecosystem is having a rich biodiversity, that means, my dear children, that particular environment is well established and well in equilibrium. Next one. Biodiversity has reduced the competition for the needs of living species. Once again correct. Right? Once again correct. Because we know that there are different types of organisms living in the environment. So these organisms which are living in the environment, they can practice different types of food, or else they can get different types of food if there is a rich biodiversity in an ecosystem. Okay. Next one. Man has focused to conserve endemic species due to rich biodiversity. Once again correct. Due to having rich biodiversity in a dense, right, population dense area, these things are also called as hotspots. So in those hotspots, man has focused to conserve this biodiversity areas or hotspots. So this is correct. So my dear children, all of these things are correct, right? All of these things are correct. Which of the following can be considered as a man-made environment? Man-made environment. Montane forest, incorrect. Ponds, agricultural lands, wet pathana. So montane forest, ponds, wet pathana, all of these things are not man-made, my dear children. But however, agricultural lands, these lands are man-made things. We discussed there are three types of man-made environments: agricultural lands, human settlements, and industrial environments. Next one. Consider the following statement about an ecosystem. It is an independent unit. Correct. It is an independent unit. energy flows in one direction and materials are recycled. Once again correct. Energy flows to one certain direction and materials are recycled. There are interactions between living and also living non-living. Once again correct. There are interactions between living non-living things. So my dear children, you have to select the correct statement. So all of these statements are correct. All are correct. Next one. Match the features of column A with the relevant ecosystem in column B. Right. Let's see. Number 1. With smaller leaves and twisted stems. So these things can be observed in montane forest. Why is that? Because my dear children, can you remember, as they are located in somewhat high lands, due to heavy winds, these features can be observed in montane forests. Next one, canopy structure can be seen. So canopy structure can be seen in tropical rainforest. Several layers of plants and other types of trees. Okay, canopy structure. First of all, we'll take this one. Paluvira cone are abundant. So my dear children, Paluvira cone are abundant. We can observe those things in different kinds of forests. So my plan is to go for the next one, that Maharatmal plant one. Can you remember? Maharatmal plant is prominent in wet pathana grasslands. Can you remember? So my dear children, we know that Maharatmal plant is prominent in wet pathana. So therefore Paluvira and cone are abundant in monsoon forest. Right? So if you don't know an answer, or if you're having a trouble with an answer, right, especially in these matching questions, try to ignore the one which you don't know and get the answers for the other ones. By that way, the remaining one would be the answer of the remaining answer. Okay, it's very easy to choose that thing there. Right, so this is the answer for the second question, my dear children. Let's move on to see the third one. From ancient times, man-made environmental systems have been created in addition to the existing natural ecosystems. Name two important features of a natural ecosystem. Two important features of a natural ecosystem. Important features in a natural ecosystem. So my dear children, when you take natural ecosystems, there are several important things. Okay, it would protect, or it has a very high and rich biodiversity. Okay, so it has a very high and a rich biodiversity when you take natural ecosystems. Okay, and the other thing is that, my dear children, when you are discussing about the important features, other than having rich biodiversity, the organisms, right, or else the things, or else the materials are getting recycled over here, and it is going to act as an independent unit. And also we can observe different kinds of interactions like living relationships and living non-living relationships. Okay, so we'll write down our answers. Name two important features of natural ecosystems. So number 1, we can write helps to recycle materials. Right? It helps to recycle materials. Then number 2, there are different relationships right? There are different relationships. Example, living, living, non-living. Then finally non-living, non-living. Right? So there are different relationships like living, 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 non-living, and non-living, non-living. So you should have write down 2 features. So we have written 2 features then. Then the next question. What are the man-made ecosystems that exist in Sri Lanka? Man-made ecosystems that exist in Sri Lanka are number 1, industrial environments. Industrial environments. Number 2, human settlements. Human settlements. Number 3, agricultural lands. Okay, agricultural lands. So these are the 3 main environments: industrial environments, human settlements, agricultural lands. The 3 types of ecosystems which are man-made and can be found in Sri Lanka. Write 2 common issues in a man-made ecosystem. Very simple, my dear children. The first and foremost issue is environment pollution, right? Right. Environment pollution. Then next one would be reduction in biodiversity. Reduction in biodiversity, right? So you know that environment is going to pollute because of disposing garbage and other waste substances to the environment by the human settlements and other man-made ecosystems. Okay, then rather than that, because of destruction of different areas with different kinds of plants and other kinds of animals, what will happen? It will gradually reduce the biodiversity. Okay, especially in agricultural lands. Okay, so environment pollution, reduction in biodiversity are 2 common issues, right? 2 common issues that can be identified in each and every man-made ecosystem. Okay, next one. Write an example for a man-made ecosystem. Example for a man-made ecosystem. So very simple, my dear children. Industrial, right? Industrial environment. Like a factory. So industrial environment like factory is a good example for a man-made ecosystem. Right. From ancient times, man-made environmental systems have been created in addition to the existing natural ecosystems. That's the question regarding the third one. Given below is a picture of man-made ecosystem. Suggest 2 possible issues and remedies in the given ecosystem. Right. So there are several issues, my dear children. When you take a certain man-made ecosystem, there are several issues. Now, by looking at this figure, this picture, we can see that there are plenty of vehicles. there are plenty of vehicles. Plenty of vehicles means plenty of releasing gases, toxic gases, unburned smoke particles, and also carbon dioxide gas. So that means, my dear children, environmental pollution is going to increase. So if we can reduce the number of vehicles by promoting the public transport, then, my dear children, we can reduce the environmental pollution up to a certain extent. Okay. So people are using these vehicles because that they do not have a suitable method of traveling, like they do not have a good public transport service, right? So if a certain country has good public transport service, then the number of vehicles which a country is going to use is also going to minimize gradually. Okay, because people would love to have their comfort. So rather than traveling in a normal car, they would love to travel by using public transport service if it is more comfortable, right? So my dear children, to minimize the number of vehicles, as a remedy, we can promote the public transportation. Okay. So by that way, we can minimize the number of vehicles which is present within this ecosystem. That means the environmental pollution is going to reduce. So we have to write down 2 possible issues and remedies. So we'll write it down. Number 1. Minimizing promoting a good public transport service. Right. So minimizing environment pollution by minimizing private vehicles, promoting a good public transport service. So how can we minimize the use of or the usage of private vehicles? Private vehicles are most often being used if the public transport service is terrible. If the public transport service is much more comfortable than driving a vehicle, then, my dear children, the ones who are driving a private vehicle would definitely go in a public transport service, right? So we can minimize the number of vehicles. We can minimize the number of vehicles by promoting the public transport service, right? Because people are always trying to find out their comfort. Okay. So therefore, if there is a good comfort in traveling through public transport service, then definitely people would choose that over private cars, right? So by that way, we can minimize the environment pollution, because you know that emission of gas particles or smoke is going to reduce when reducing the number of private cars. Okay. Right. Then we'll look at the picture once more. What are the other cases that we can observe here? There are a large number of buildings, right? There are a large number of buildings. And also, my dear children, the vegetation is very less in these areas. Okay, that means more amount of carbon dioxide gas is going to accumulate in within this area. Why is that? Because photosynthesis is the method of absorbing carbon dioxide in a certain area or in a certain atmospheric region. So by increasing the vegetation, like we can plant trees at the either sides of the road, so that would also increase the shelter, plus it would also help to absorb carbon dioxide gas within the atmosphere. Okay, so we can write the second one. Number 2, planting trees near to roads to absorb carbon dioxide gas. So what is the issue here? What is the issue here? Now this is the remedy, planting trees near to roads to absorb carbon dioxide gas. What is the issue here? So issue in here is, we'll write it down by using another different pen. So issue not having clean air for respiration. Then my dear children, over here we can write the issue as like this. Environment pollution. Then the remedy is minimizing environment pollution by minimizing private vehicles, promoting a good public transport service. Right? The issue is environment pollution. Next one over here, planting trees near to roads at either sides to absorb carbon dioxide gas. So the issue is not having clean air for respiration. Right? So these are two issues. Right? So the two issues, and my dear children, remedies. Okay, issue number 1 is environment pollution because of emission of fuel burnt smoke. So we can avoid that condition by minimizing the environment. We can minimize the private vehicles which used in this figure by promoting a good public transport service. Then my dear children, the other thing, planting trees near roads at the side of the roads to absorb carbon dioxide gas. By that way, the issue of not having clean air for respiration can be minimized up to certain level. Okay, so these are the answers, right? These are the answers for the questions given in your textbook, my dear children. Okay, now we'll discuss several extra questions related to the biodiversity lesson part. Right then. So in here, the first type of question given, you have to select the most accurate answer. Number 1, biodiversity is ecosystem diversity, species diversity, genetic diversity. Above all, it's very simple, my dear children. We know that all of these things can be considered as the biodiversity? Biodiversity is the collection of genetic diversity, species diversity, and as well as ecosystem diversity. Next one, species name of modern man is. So once again, it's very simple, my dear children. The species name of modern man is Homo sapien. When writing down the scientific names, my dear children, when printing these scientific names, definitely we have to italic those. We have to italic those words. It's a rule. It's a law when printing down these scientific names. Okay. Right then. The diversity among different animals from body, shape, method of reproduction is known as ecosystem diversity, species diversity, biodiversity, genetic diversity. So diversity among different animals from body, shape and method of reproduction is known as. So all of these features are observed within organisms, my dear children, or else from one particular species to another particular species. So therefore, this is especially reflecting about the species diversity. We know that this is also a type of biodiversity. However, for this question, the most accurate answer would be species diversity, right? Species diversity. Next one. Have the ability to roll the tongue is an ability obtained from genes, biodiversity, food that we eat, genetic diversity. Now the question is referring the ability to roll the tongue is an ability obtained from. Where do we obtain these abilities? This is some kind of a special ability possessed by only some number of people who are living in our society. So we receive this ability from our ancestors, from our previous generations, my dear children. So that means it's belong to the genetic diversity, we know that, but however, we receive these things from our genes, right? So the most accurate answer for this question would be genes. Next one. Genes are located in A. Nucleus of cells, B. Blood, C. Chromosomes, D. None of the above. Now, this is somewhat confusing question, right? There are like two possible answers, right? We know that chromosomes are located within the nucleus of cells. Then where the genes are being located on? Nucleus or chromosomes? What is the correct answer? Actually, genes are located on chromosomes. Chromosomes are located on nucleus of the cell. So the most accurate answer, they are not asking about chromosomes, my dear children. They are asking about genes. So genes are located in chromosomes. Chromosomes are located in nucleus of the cell. Okay. However, they are asking about the genes, not about the chromosomes. So the most accurate answer for this question would be in chromosomes, right? Within the chromosomes, we can observe the genes. Next one. Endemic species to Sri Lanka. Ashokapetya. Correct. Ashokapetya is an endemic species to Sri Lanka. That means Ashokapetya can only be seen in Sri Lanka. Next one. Blue magpie. Once again correct, right? Blue magpie, correct. Jungle fowl. Of course, that is also correct. So all of these three organisms belong to Sri Lanka only, or they can be observed only in Sri Lanka. So all of these three organisms are endemic to Sri Lanka. So all of these things are correct, my dear children. Next one. Natural threat to biodiversity. Natural threat to biodiversity. Destruction of forest. It is not a natural threat. Humans are going to destruct forest. Next one. Emission of greenhouse gases. Once again the same, right? Humans are the ones who are going to emit greenhouse gases, and also spreading invasive organisms, that is also caused mainly because of the human activities. However, my dear children, floods are going to occur mainly because of natural changes or natural reasons. Extinct species, extinct one, mammoth, correct, right? We discussed that mammoth extinct like long time ago, mainly because of the climatic changes. So it is correct. Next one, dinosaurs. Once again correct, right? Dinosaurs extinct because of meteor collapse. Dodo bird. Once again correct. Because of excessive hunting, dodo bird got extinct from the planet Earth. So all of these organisms, right? All of these organisms has got extinct from the planet Earth, right? We won't be able to observe these organisms right now. Okay, so all of these organisms are correct for the extinct organisms. Next one, reason for the extinction of mammoth: destruction of forests, climatic changes, overpopulation, spreading invasive species, right? So spreading invasive species, actually that's not relevant for this answer, right? Right? It should be actually invasive species. There is no such kind of a thing like invasive species. So this is terribly incorrect. Next one, overpopulation. No, once again incorrect, right? Because when the time during the time where the mammoths are going to when the mammoths are living, there was no such kind of an incident like overpopulation. So it is also incorrect, right? However, climatic changes, my dear children, that is the main reason for the extinction of mammoth, right? Mammoths got extinct mainly because of the climatic changes. Next one, main reason for the extinction of dodo bird. This is also very simple. When we are discussing about the animals which got extinct, I told you about this dodo bird. Dodo bird got extinct mainly because of the excessive hunting. So that is a human related activity, right? Because of the pets carried out by the humans from the ships, like dogs and cats and foxes and so on. So these dodo birds, those birds are flightless birds. So for the pets bought from people, these birds were a very easy prey. So and also hunters, like for food also, humans hunted these organisms like in bunches. So like after 1800 to 1900, right, during 18th to 19th century, dodo bird got eradicated or got extinct from the planet Earth because of those excessive hunting, my dear children. So the correct answer would be excessive hunting. Next one, human threat to biodiversity. Human threat: destruction of forest, climatic changes, meteor collapse, droughts. So my dear children, this is very simple question. Climatic changes, meteor collapse, droughts. All of these things are natural reasons. Naturally those things are going to occur. Meteor collapse, natural thing. Drought, once again natural. And also climatic changes, that's like indirectly human activities are going to result climatic changes, but however it is occurring naturally, no, right? Natural factors are the ones which are responsible in changing changing the climate of a certain area, no. So therefore it's not, it's it's indirectly related, but we can cancel off with this question. So our correct answer would be what? Destruction of forest. Okay, it's clearly it's very clear to us that destruction of forest would directly going to threat the biodiversity, right? Because destruction of organisms is going to threat the biodiversity, right? Next one, an invasive organism. Mammoth, dinosaur, tank cleaner fish, green pit viper. Mammoth and dinosaurs both has got extinct. Those organisms are not even on the earth at this moment. Then green pit viper, once again incorrect my dear children, because this is an endemic organism. These organisms are very less in count. So our answer would be tank cleaner fish. This is an invasive organism. Next one. This will cause climatic changes. Destruction of forest. Correct, right? Destruction of forest will definitely cause climatic changes. Because of destruction of forest, water sources will get destroyed, and therefore drought seasons will come more often. That means, my dear children, it will result climatic changes. So it is correct. Global warming, of course it is correct. Global warming is the main reason for increasing average temperature in a certain area. Okay, so it is correct. Next one, ozone layer depletion. Once again correct. Because of emission of greenhouse gases, my dear children, right? Ozone layer is going to deplete. Because of that, environment temperature will get increased, because more solar radiation is going to come towards the earth. So all of these things are considered as causes to create climatic changes. Next one, a greenhouse gas. Methane, carbon dioxide, water vapor, all the above. Some might think that water vapor is good for our environment, and it is a, like it's not a greenhouse gas. However, my dear children, methane, carbon dioxide, water vapor, all of these things are considered as greenhouse gases. Water vapor can absorb more solar radiation, and it can also re-radiate these things towards our earth. So water vapor is also considered as a greenhouse gas, my dear children. Okay, so all of these things are greenhouse gases, right? Some might think that methane and carbon dioxide only. No, no, no. Water vapor is also a greenhouse gas, remember. Okay. Next one. The regions of higher density of living organisms are called regions. They are asking about the regions. The regions of higher density of living organisms are called sensitive places, genes, biodiversity, hotspots. Right? So, what is the correct answer? It's not the sensitive places, definitely not the genes, not the biodiversity, but my dear children, a hotspot. Hotspot. Right? Hotspot is the correct answer. Next one. An indigenous plant in Sri Lanka. Indigenous plant. So all of these, ebony, satinwood and white X, my dear children, all of these things are indigenous plants. I think when we are discussing about that in situ conservation thing, we have learned about these plants. And also when we are discussing this biodiversity lesson also, my dear children, we found out that these things are indigenous plants or endemic plants to Sri Lanka. So all of these are endemic plants or indigenous plants in Sri Lanka. Right? Then the next one, an ecosystem. Decaying leaf. When you take a decaying leaf, there are large number of microorganisms. Sometimes there are several insects. There are non-living particles as well, right? So therefore, decaying leaf can be considered as an ecosystem. So this is correct. Next one, a pond. Of course, correct. Forest, once again correct. Therefore, all of these things are considered as ecosystems. So, my dear children, then the next question. All living organisms in a community and the physical environment interacting with them considered together as an ecosystem, biodiversity, genetic diversity, living non-living relationship. As you can see here, by looking at the question over here, and means definitely the next word should be starting from a vowel, right? So our answer would be definitely ecosystem. So This is like doing some kind of a tricky business, right? So by just looking at the letter over there, we can decide the answer which is over here. Okay, so my dear children, however, we should have the ability to identify and get the answer, the correct answer. Okay, so let me explain the thing in here. All living organisms in a community and the physical environment interacting with them considered together as living organisms interacting with physical environment. Living organisms interacting with physical environment, that's the one which is considered as the ecosystem, my dear children. So it's very simple. Ecosystem is the correct answer, right? So my dear children, within this chapter we have discussed several questions regarding first of all regarding the textbook questions, and after that we discussed several MCQ questions related to the extra questions part. Okay, so in our next chapter we'll discuss even more questions related to the lesson biodiversity. Okay, however, I'll meet you with the next chapter to discuss those questions. Okay.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.